over to it because I'm pretty sure our players are ready, and it is showtime. Chris Pikula, meddling mage on the left. He doesn't get to get out very much, but we do get to see him here, and it looks like we're going to see him in Somerset, New Jersey for the Invitational, now that he's qualified, against Chaz Hinkle on the right. And of course, we're going to have Pikula playing first as he is your 3 seed, Hinkle is your 6, and I think that's actually a pretty big deal here in this particular matchup.
Absolutely. The Sneak and Show deck wants to be on the play so it can sort of nut draw underneath the disruption, and the Rug Delver deck almost needs to be on the play because it needs to be able to use its mana both to get the disruption out there, to get its threats out there, and to sort of get the card selection in line so that it is able to have the correct sequence to stop the Sneak and Show player.
Now keep in mind, after this game, we're going to cut back to the booth. It's going to be trivia time, of course, but we'll ask you a question. We'll explain the rules to you, and we give away 3 months of premium this round at the conclusion of it. The question will be coming after this game. Introducing Hinkle is going to resolve a preordain. He's going to shift some cards around, take that one at the top, and pass the turn back after drawing a Lotus Petal. You see, Pikula does not have a turn 1 play. No Limit Mongoose, no Delver of Secrets. He's got some Stifle in his hand. You got a Wasteland. But the thing that's nice about Sneak and Show, with the builds as they evolved, is that they were actually able to get some basics in their deck. Hinkle has 3 islands and 1 mountain in his deck, so he can actually fade Wasteland pretty well.
Yeah, Lotus Petal's also the fast mana getting around that as well. And a Simian Spirit Guide you see pulled to the front. A lot of fast mana, you know, it gets around Wasteland by not only being Wasteland proof, but also you can just get it out there so quickly. You can play them all the turn that you're going off, and it doesn't matter that Wasteland can kill it, say, City of Traders, after you've already used it to cast your big spell.
You see Hinkle plays a Lotus Petal, more of a test spell there to see if Pikula would counter it.
It was actually to not have to discard because he missed a land drop.
But, you know, the way he cast it, and kind of took a good look at Chris, saying,
yeah.
What do you think about this
What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
And Pikula says, that resolves. That one's not the important one that I have to worry about. And Hinkle passing the turn without a land drop, so that preordain certainly not help him. Let's see if a draw step does, and he draws a Ponder, so you can go a little digging if you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, exactly what Pikula wants to be doing. The only thing that he would change is to have a threat on the board, but it looks like he's not going to need one, as Chaz is just going for it here. And when you're using petals, you are all in.
Yes.
He did draw the blue card in the form of Ponder there, which is what he was looking for to go along with his Force of Will to help disrupt it. But Pikula is going to float a mana and use a Daze here. Simian Spirit Guide, paying from the trees. Didn't see that one coming. And now Pikula's going to have to use a Spell Pierce, it looks like. Yep.
He does use that from the blue mana.
Presumably this is going to get Force of Willed, and the question is going to be, does Pikula have the extra disruption spell, the Force of Will, or another Pierce?
Alright, here's a Force of Will to the test. Do you have another counter spell? If not, that means Crystalbrand or Emrakul coming into play, so it's on you, Chris. Sacrifice a fetch. We might be seeing maybe a desperate brainstorm.
Yeah, I was going to say, this doesn't look like a Pierce. That fetch land would have been cracked right away, and the Pierce already on the table. Yep. This looks like a Brainstorm and cross the fingers. He is drawing the Daze.
Yes.
Dazes are alive, and he does have 4 of them, using 1, so he has 3 of those, as well as the 4 Force of Wills. So he is drawing a 7 outs with 3 cards. The math isn't in his favor, but you know, it's statistically significant that you know, he can draw out of this, and it does look like a Brainstorm. Here we go. A 1, a 2, a 3.
I see a Delver's Secrets. I see a Ponder. What I don't see is an answer there for Pikula.
Yep.
He's going to have to put 2 cards back from that Brainstorm, and this means that Show and Tell looks like it's going to resolve. And again, you see Hinkle's hand. You see the Spaghetti Monster up there at the front. I think he's also got 2 copies of Gristlebrand in his hand as well. And this is what you often see with the Sneak and Show deck, is that it's ready to have this battle over resolving its key spell. And there's an Emrakul and there's Delver Secrets. One of these things is not like the other, and Hinkle feels pretty good about passing the turn back, and who can blame him?
Yep, these Rogue Delver decks have to stop this from happening. They have no way to deal with an Emrakul or even a Gristlebrand once it's in play, and Chris Pikula kind of going through the motions here, you know, seeing if maybe he can get Chaz to like miss a trigger and then chomp and, you know, get some threats on play, but really looks like we're going to be going to a fast game 2 here.
Yeah. The problem here for Pikula is that Chaz Hinkle's life total is not 3. It's currently 19, which is
quite a large.
A lot.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Here comes the insect operation. Oh, putting the brakes on, I get a little taste. That
does fly. That does indeed fly. Can't attack into that.
Pikula saying, is that? Oh, that thing flies too?
Yeah.
What doesn't it do?
So what he's going to have to do here is like stifle the Annihilator trigger, and then he's looking to take 15.
I was like, can you stifle the damage trigger?
Yeah, and then maybe stifle another trigger and chump, and somehow get 19 across. That number seems so high.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to be able to piece it together, but if anyone can, it's the Meddling Mage as he looks at this Ponder. Does this do it? Doesn't look like it from the glimpse that I got. Probably going to have to be a pretty specific sequence of spells to close this one out, and it's going to have to include a second Stifle, which this Ponder does not. So I have to assume this is going to be shuffled away. Chris seeing if he can somehow put the pieces together here. If there even is a sort of backdoor runner that can get the job done.
Yeah, trying to think of a combination of cards for him to get out of this is, it's like borderline impossible.
Yeah, real thing.
It would take the actual perfect draws. I'm trying to think of in my head as you are right now as well. Just, all right, if he could stack his deck, could he get out of the situation?
Right, and that's what he's thinking about too. And he's not sure, but he knows that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So you might as well shuffle, get a look, and make your decision from there.
All right, so Hinkle going to shuffle up. Mystery card coming off the Ponder. We see in just a moment that it's a daze. You're a little late.
All right, I'll daze your Emrakul.
Yeah.
You can't pay.
Pass the turn. In for 15. Annihilator trigger. Stifle the Annihilator trigger.
All right.
Hinkle says that's fine. It's still 15 still coming across, I promise you. As Hinkle draws a Forcible to go on those two Gristlebrands and passes the turn back. Pikula draws a Ponder for the turn. Going to play a Tropical Island. Here you're going to see a Ponder take place. So
yeah, I mean, he's got to find a Stifle and, like, I don't know, another Delver and a Tarmogoyf and be able to cast them all.
Yeah, I just don't, it's pretty wishful thinking here, I think, for Pikula to be able to get himself out of this situation. Again, I don't think there's a string of cards that can actually do it without him drawing, multiple cards in a turn, which the Rug Delver deck cannot do.
Yeah. Yeah, the actual big blowout of this game was Pikula thought he had two pieces of disruption with Daze and Spell Pierce, but the Daze being taken out by the Simian Spirit Guide from the hand, and he's able to fight through and get an Emrakul into play, and Chaz Hinkle will take down game one.
We're going to bring it back to the booth for you guys for just a moment because it is trivia time. And in trivia time, it's pretty simple. Going to ask you a question, and we're going to ask you to bring up your Twitter accounts. I love Twitter, you love Twitter. Who doesn't love Twitter nowadays? I tried to fight it.
It's the future, man.
Yeah.
Even Patrick Sullivan's embraced it.
I know. In the future, it kind of freaks me out, but I like it. So, all right, pretty simple. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to hashtag your answer with the hashtag SCG Premium. We're giving away 3 months of premium this go around here in the quarterfinals. And again, we are going to select one person that actually gets the answer correct. It's about accuracy, not speed. Again, hashtag your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium, and we will announce our winner at the conclusion of the quarterfinals. And the question is, within Chris Pikula's Rug Delver deck list, typically you're going to find 4 Lightning Bolts, which you do find here, and there's oftentimes a 5th burn spell. Now, sometimes that card is 4 bolts, sometimes that card is Fire Ice. This time, it's a different one. And if you're able to name that 5th burn spell that is a singleton in Chris Pikula's deck list, tweet your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium on Twitter. And again, we will select one person who does get it right from the group of people who do get it right about accuracy, not speed, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of the round.
Hooray!
A softie. That one was an easy one.
They're all kind of soft.
Oh, you want me to make it tough?
I don't want to burst your bubble.
You want me to make it tough? I can put the pedal to the floor. All right. I know a lot about Magic. I can make these things hard if I wanted to. All right. You know what? Next one's going to be actually difficult. Fine. And when you can't get it right, blame him.
Sorry, guys. I was about to say sorry.
There you go. There you go. We can do this. All right. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. Pikula, going to be on the play this game. He needs to get started with a 1-drop this game.
Yeah, I mean,
at least Tarmogoyf. If he needs to get the show going.
Having the play was, one of the key things. That game didn't actually matter that much because he didn't have the threat or the disruption on turn 1. Like, he didn't actually have anything to do with the mana, and then his turn 2 was just like Wasteland go. And
kind of overvaluing Stifle there, I feel like, when he's on the play.
Yeah, and with all of that sort of lost time, Chaz didn't even need to, Chaz just went for it. He wasn't even under a threat. He was just like, I mean, this is just such a good spot for me. I can go for it without being under any real pressure, and sure enough, it worked. But yeah, I mean, post board, being on the play, just as important, and just going to bring in a couple more counters in the form of the blasts. And
Flusterstorm probably too, I think. I mean, Flusterstorm's not great, but again, when you're going to get in that counter war like we just saw, that's typically what happens in this matchup. But at some point, the Sneak and Show player says, all right, time to go for it. And, you know, after they do this brainstorming and preordaining and pondering, they've already built, like, a handful of, you know, not a lot of counter magic, but enough that we have this little battle of spell, counter it, counter it, counter it. And so Flusterstorm can help mitigate that. We've also, as you said, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, actually be able to counter the blue card that's relevant, or the Force of Will. And besides that, I don't really see too much more coming in. Maybe a Scavenging Ooze to add to the clock, but that seems a little ambitious.
Yeah, probably not doing that. On the other side, Chaz Hinkle, pretty much just with 2 Red Elemental Blasts of his own, you know, shoot down some Force of Wills that are targeting your things, maybe even get a Stifle, you know, on a fetch land so that you can develop your mana, since that is sort of the key, or at least the first step, you know, the first phase of the game, which has trying to develop his mana, and Chris is trying to keep him from being able to do exactly that. So being able to blast the Stifle on a fetch seems fine, and obviously using it to get force through your show and tell through a Force of Will. Obviously another quite powerful application. So I see those 2 coming in, and nothing else really that great. Like Blood Moon seems a little slow. Echoing Truth and Pyroclasm and Leyline of Sanctity don't really do anything. Through the Breach, not too great, and Crocus doesn't do anything, so looks like just a couple blasts coming in for Chaz. Right. Chaz!
So you do see both players are shuffling. You are just a child.
I'm
just ridiculous. Both players shuffling up here for game number 2. Again, if you guys are just joining us, we do appreciate it. Cedric Phillips, AJ Soccer here in the booth. Hashtag SCGBALT at SCG Live for your tweets. Join in on the conversation with us during these elimination rounds as we're crowning a Legacy champion here this weekend. Not a double standard open. We got fun Legacy action. Glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it, to be honest. Especially because we get to see Chris Pikula. You know, for those of you not familiar, Pikula, super old school guy. And I know that, you know, we say a lot of people are old school guys, but Pikula is old school guy. You want to know how old school guy he is? I don't know how well you know his resume, but his first pro tour was the first pro tour in New York in 1996. I was 6 years old when that happened.
I was 10.
Yeah.
I was 10.
Yeah, he was playing in that pro tour. That was the pro tour where if you called Wizards and asked to go, you got an invite. Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah, and then that next season, I think it was the next season in 97. I know, you know, in the 90s, he had 3 Pro Tour top 8s over the course of a couple seasons, which is, you know, 3 Pro Tour top 8s is the number where you start looking at Hall of Fame. That's a big number, and he has a handful of GP top 8s as well. You know, really, really old school pro. One of the guys who really defined what a Magic Pro is.
Yeah. So he was calling Wizards to say he wanted to play the Pro Tour, and when I was 96, I was calling Blockbuster, seeing if they had Super Mario World in for rent. Now Blockbuster is out of business.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's for all you youngsters out there.
Little perspective for you.
For all youngsters out there, Blockbuster was a store you could rent video games. You see
like Netflix, but you know, with bricks.
Yeah. If you see a Turn 1 Delver's Secrets, are we going to see a flip? We are not. Pluto Delta is the draw here for the turn. It looks like both players did keep 7. You see Hinkle starts off with a basic again, so no Wastelands here. And you're going to see Ponder set things up here for Chris. Going to take a look at the top 3 lands.
Yeah, not exactly where you want to be. Kind of unfortunate because it also means you can't guarantee a Delver flip the next turn, which is kind of the job of Ponder in this slot, as well as, you know, try and find some disruption to let the Delver carry you home. So we're going to have to either get another card manipulation spell or just a random flip off of the Delver, get this clock going. But this is the start that Pikula wants, you know. Clock on turn 1 so you don't have to hold up mana and never get your pressure on board. He already has the pressure on board, so now he can save his mana for cantrips and things like Spell Pierced and Red Blast to stop Chaz from doing all of the broken things that he wants to do. And here we see a fetch land being cracked, Pikula cracking in response, and this reeks of Stifle. The 1-mana Stone Rain, the infamous.
He loves a good stifle.
Yeah?
He's been stifling everybody.
Yeah, all day. And there it is. And Chaz has to force of will it.
Yeah, battling over this is it's pretty tough. I mean, if you're Chris, you're thrilled about this, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You will trade a Stifle for a Force and a Misdirection any day of the week.
Yeah. You have to battle over your land drop? Sign me up all day, every day.
Now, the shields are a bit down right now. You know, if Chaz did have, like, exact perfects, he might be able to do something this turn. But realistically, Pikula is likely to get another untap here, which is exactly what he needs. We'll have to see. Ooh.
Is it go time?
It might be.
Jeez. A Blood Moon. That's go time in a different way.
Yeah, he did bring in Blood Moon, and I mean, the threat is already in play. That's the important part, because once the Blood Moon is in play, you can't actually play any threats. None of the threats in the Rug Delver deck are red. Your Red Blasts are still on, but your Dazes and Spell Pierces are off. Your Force of Wills are still on, but your Stifles are off. So it does cut off a lot of the disruption from Pikula.
It's kind of funny, actually. I've seen this happen quite a bit. The match that this really brings me back to is Jacob Corey. When we were in San Diego doing coverage at the beginning of the year, actually resolved a Blood Moon against a Rug Delver player playing Sneak and Show. And the Rug Delver player had already resolved a Delver Secrets.
Yeah.
And Jacob Corey was not actually able to ever finish him off and through all this work. And then, you know, what ended up happening is that the Rug Delver player just drew like a couple Force of Wills, and then you said Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, and was able to win the fight over Show and Tell.
Yep, I mean, as we see here, Chaz has invested a Lotus Petal, a card in the Blood Moon, a Force of Will, and a Misdirection, pitching to that Force of Will to get this Blood Moon online. So that is quite a hefty investment, and Pikula not only flips his Delver, but reveals a Force of Will, and Chaz kind of needs to put the pieces together here, and he's under significant clock. If you can get that Blood Moon out before the threat is in play, it's obviously fairly good.
Yeah.
But if the Delver or, you know, Tarmogoyf or even Nimble Mongoose is already in play, then it cuts off about half of their disruption spells, but you have to invest a lot into getting it into play.
You see Chaz right now, he's drawing, you look at his hand, he's got 2 Gristle Brands, Emrakul, Force of Will, and Delver's just going to work here. And you know that Chris already has that Force of Will in his hand, so, you know, he's going to be able to win the fight, and it's actually on Chaz to draw Sneak Attack or Show and Tell. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, he has to draw those
cards.
He has to draw those and a blue card for his own Force of Will to fight Chris's.
I don't know if you knew this, but you only get to draw 1 card a turn.
Yeah.
So
that's a game rule.
It's going to be hard to do. And you know, this is part of the reason, and I've seen this before, he boards in Blood Moon, he resolves Blood Moon, and then he loses.
And he loses, like, very easily.
Yes. That is the definition of a poor sideboard card.
Yeah.
There's multiple times that I've seen in this exact matchup, because this matchup happens a lot in Legacy, where the Sneak and Show player, they board in their Blood Moons, they resolve their Blood Moons, and then they're dying to the creature that's in play. This time it was Insectile Aberration. It's been Tarmogoyf before, it's been Nimble Mongoose before, and they just are fiddling around, and they're not able to actually find a Show and Tell or Sneak Attack, and if they are, they can actually still lose the counter war over it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we were going over the sideboard before Game 2, I did mention Blood Moon, like, theoretically it has applications, but it's a little too slow, especially on the draw. If you're on the play, you can hope to sort of, you know, mize maybe a turn 1 or 2 Blood Moon before threat gets out there, and maybe just sort of get a free win that way. But realistically, it's not that great of a game plan, you know? If the game doesn't go perfectly, then Blood Moon's a near dead card a lot of the time. And I think you'd rather just have, you know, the cantrip or the disruption spell or whatever it is he boarded out for that Blood Moon.
You know, a lot of people make the argument of, well, I can cast Blood Moon on turn 2, potentially even turn 1 with a double land and a Lotus Petal, or, you know, we saw in turn 2 that game, he was able to do it via Lotus Petal. They had this little battle over his Stifle, Force of Will counter the Stifle, and he was able to play turn 2 Blood Moon, but yes, you can put it out that early, but at the end of the day, it doesn't win you. Yeah, it doesn't win you the game. It just makes the game a lot more difficult for Chris.
Yeah.
That's all that it does. And he ended up winning. You know, because Chaz wasn't able to cantrip around or find a Sneak Attack or find a Show and Tell, and he ends up losing the game because of it. So I agree with you for sure that, you know, on the play it's a different story, but on the draw that game he had it on turn 2, it was no good.
I mean, I've just seen that happen so often, and you mentioned you've seen it happen as well. I don't think that that's the way that you need to fight the Rug Delver decks. I think you need to just play your game plan, and basically the way that you're blanking a lot of their disruption instead of Blood Moon is actually just bolstering your mana base. Just playing your lands, having basics, not running your Stifles into fetches, having, you know, the double lands available to you, the Lotus Petals, And that's the way that you're blanking their soft counters, not by trying to, mise an early Blood Moon and turn those off. It's too heavy of an investment.
So we'll see if Hinkle's going to leave those in now that he's on the play again. He only has 2, where a lot of people I've seen have had 3 or 4 of those in his sideboard. So that's one thing. But this just goes back to pretty basic sideboarding. And when you're just doing game analysis, or maybe why did I win or why did I lose, so that you can improve your game. One thing that I do a lot when I'm playing sideboarding games is, did I draw my sideboard cards? Yes, I did, or no, I didn't. Okay, I did draw my sideboard cards. What kind of effect did they have on the game? That's something I always do when I'm just testing. It's just like, all right, I drew my Pillar Flames in the sideboard. Were they good?
Yeah.
Okay, they were okay. And it's like, what did I lose to? Like a Volcanic Strength on a DI. Hey, well, Pillar Flame isn't the answer then.
Yeah, Pillar Flame doesn't do that.
All right, you need more damage then.
Yeah.
Or a cleaner removal spell. And you see there where he draws Blood Moon, resolved it, and what happened? This is awkward. I did not win. Well, that's not what I want to be sideboarding in then.
Rolled over to what was already in play. Like, it's not like then Pikula, created an amazing sequence to get out from under the sideboard card. He just killed him with the Delver that was in play. Pretty straight up. I mean, he had the Force Wall. He didn't even need it because the rest of Chaz's hand was so bad because he invested all of those resources into...
How dare you call Gristle, Brandon, and Emrakul bad? How dare you?
They're not bad, but they do need a little help.
All right. Quick update for you guys really quick as these players are shuffling up for Game 3. Todd Anderson versus the Chris Marshall match, our 1 versus 8 seed, and what is a Deathblade mirror, we can call it for now. Todd Anderson is currently up a game as those players are in Game 2, and as we do get more match results for you guys, we will keep you updated, as I do have another one coming in very quickly. Keith Blackwell up a game over Frank Scarron, so Omnitel, the mono-blue combo deck, is starting to pick up some steam in Legacy. Up a game over Frank Scarron playing Shardless Bug.
Yeah, Omnitel is definitely a Game 1 deck, so that doesn't surprise me too much.
Yeah,
but the post-board games are going to be...
Game 1 deck.
Yeah, post-board games are going to be a little harder. He's got to have those Leylines of Sanctity if he wants to... either Leylines or really, really solid draws if he wants to do his thing. So here we see the players getting ready to draw their openers for the decider, Game 3.
Hinkle on the play.
Yeah, which we've said time and time again is really important for both of these decks. And Chaz both kept.
Again, right? So they both kept 7 carders.
Chaz is actually thinking of leading with basic or crack the fetch before Stifle is online.
Crack that fetch before Stifle is online.
Yeah. Having fetches around to like shuffle after a Brainstorm or Ponder is nice, but again, the most important thing that you can do against Rug Delver, pretty much as any deck, but especially one that's trying to resolve, 3 and 4 mana cards, is just to bolster your mana base. And we do see a copy of Blood Moon in Chaz's hand.
Simeon Spirit Guide as well, Misdirection and a Ponder. So Ponder is what's going to start the show here for Hinkle. He's going to take a look at 3, Force of Will through the Breach, and a Mystery blue card.
Through the Breach is another interesting one.
I'm a little bit surprised to see that in his hand as well, but maybe his thought process is how he went about losing that game with, which was all the doofuses in my hand, and I can't do anything to get him in play, so I'd like to have more ways to actually go about doing that.
Yeah, I suppose that does make sense. And Pikula pondering. I was going to say Delver, but no, he's like, I need to get something going here, and that, unfortunately for him, does look like it is going to be met with a Blood Moon forced through. And as we said, if the Rug Delver player doesn't have a threat in play, you do basically mise a free win. There are no red threats in Chris Pikula's deck. And here we go, another basic and Blood Moon. So can Pikula fight over this? He's going to need some forces, some dazes. He's going to need at least 2 things because Chaz's hand is Force, Misdirection, Show and Tell, and Volcanic Island.
Now this is where Blood Moon's good.
Yes, on the play, and when you get it when the Rug Delver player doesn't already have the threat set up. And even if he didn't ponder here, he passes, it's so easy for him to have Spell Pierce Daze or Daze Force or whatever, where it's not even that great. But since he had to ponder turn 1, it's really difficult for him to have 2 things. He's got to have Daze Force blue card, which it doesn't look like he has. And
he has to have basically the perfects.
Yeah.
To get out of this.
Exactly. And yeah, it resolves. And Pikula puts his hand on his head. It's a really frustrating way to lose. You just don't even get to cast any spells.
Aha.
Bite.
Contraire mon frere. Lightning bolt in the house.
Does he actually have 20 points of burn? Can we look at this? He's got...
I'll take the under.
He's got 12 in the 4 bolts and the 1 chain lightning. So that looks like 15, no more on the board. So nope, can't actually kill him.
I mean, the reason you see this card in the deck is to resolve it against Rug Delver. Again, you know, it's a card that it's situationally good. As we saw last game, it was not good enough.
Right.
And in this game, it's fantastic. So.
Yeah, and the volatility of that sort of thing, and where like if you have it, you only want it on turn like 1 or 2, or maybe 3. But as the game goes long and you're kind of in top deck mode, it's absolutely horrible. Chaz only has 2 copies in his sideboard. You know, if you have 4, then you could theoretically create a situation where you're not drawing. And yeah, Pikula just slams his hand on the table. I mean, there's nothing he can do.
He can't cast any spells.
And yeah, he's just dead to the turn 2 Blood Moon from the play from Chaz Hinkle. And Chaz Hinkle, with Sneak and Show, will be moving on to the semifinals.
He's going to be playing the winner of the Keith Blackwell-Frank Scarron match. So congratulations to Chaz. Great tournament for Chris. Chris' main focus coming into this tournament was to be qualified for the Invitational in Somerset. This top 8 leads him to that qualification, so we're going to see him in that tournament at the back end of July. But when you're X&O in a tournament and you double draw, you want to win the thing.
Yeah, it definitely does not feel good to lose 1 match all day and just be done.
Yeah.
Definitely not a good feeling, but I mean, it happens. Especially when, you know, you choose a deck that's just cold to Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens.
Yeah, I mean, Blood Moon not a major player, but, I mean, he looked at the sideboard, he knew it was coming, and, you know, maybe